Okay, so in the next tutorial is where we're going to start having fun. We will be writing our first fetch or first get request in the next tutorial. For this tutorial, what I want to do is just do a very basic example using the console to show you the difference between synchronous code or JavaScript and asynchronous. So really everything we've seen so far in this course is synchronous. It is essentially code that executes in a sequential manner. One thing happens at a time. So for example, if I just log out to the console, Bruce Wayne is awesome, okay? And then maybe if I just log out then afterwards, console.log, I also love Superman. And then maybe we'll just say, console.log. Sorry, man, I keep missing keys. Robin is cool too, okay? So we know what's going to happen. We've seen this before. So this is synchronous JavaScript. Our JavaScript file is going to load, the browser's going to run it, and it's just going to go console.log, Bruce Wayne is awesome. Then it's going to say, I also love Superman. And then it's going to say, Robin is cool too. So these three statements, these three console logs are happening one at a time, one after the other. We execute this one, then that one, and then this one. Just for the sake of it, I'll just refresh the browser and just show you that. Okay, so you see here it happens in order. So that is an example of synchronous JavaScript. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to change this code to make it asynchronous. So now we're going to do an example of asynchronous. So what I'm going to do is let's just change that to be asynchronous. Okay, now what I'm going to do is in between Bruce Wayne is awesome and I also love Superman, I'm going to use what's known as the setTimeOut method. So the setTimeOut method is another method inbuilt in JavaScript, and what it does is you can essentially delay the execution of code. So I could just log out to the console, Wonder Woman is the best, but use the setTimeOut method to delay it by, let's say, 5 seconds. So if I say setTimeOut, note the use of camel case there. So it is an inbuilt method in JavaScript. So to call or invoke it, we have parentheses. And we actually need to pass in a callback function to it. So we're just going to have an arrow function here, okay, like so. And then what I'm going to do is just inside of the setTimeOut, we're going to write our code. We're just going to say console.log, Wonder Woman is the best, okay? And then in here, okay, what we can do is just use the amount of milliseconds that we want to delay the code. So I'm just going to tell you in advance what's going to happen. What's going to happen is as follows, because this is asynchronous code. JavaScript is going to see this statement and it's going to say, okay, fine, I will log out Bruce Wayne is awesome to the console. Then it's going to see the setTimeOut and it's going to say, okay, I would need to log out Wonder Woman is the best, but whoever wrote the code here wants me to wait 5 seconds. So rather than waiting for this to execute before continuing to execute statements in the file, JavaScript is going to come back to that. So it's going to actually log out I love Superman, I also love Superman, and then Robin is cool too before logging out to the console, Wonder Woman is the best. So that's actually an example of asynchronous JavaScript where it executes this line, then it says, okay, I need to do something, but we're not going to stay here and wait for it to finish before we continue on executing statements in the JavaScript file. No, what we're going to do is continue on executing. So this is a very basic example of asynchronous JavaScript. I just want you to see it in action before we work with fetch in the next tutorial. So we see here, Bruce is awesome, we love Superman, Robin is cool too. Then we wait, and see, we get Wonder Woman is the best. There was a delay. So the cool thing is that, the Wonder Woman, that piece of code, that was actually written ahead of, I also love Superman and Robin is cool too, and yet they were logged out, the messages about them to the console first, okay? So that was a very basic example of asynchronous code in action, the idea that multiple things are happening at once, whereby we execute this, JavaScript says, okay, I need to run this code, but rather than waiting for it, I'll continue executing these statements underneath while this is running in the background. Because yeah, okay, awesome. So guys, that is a very basic example of asynchronous JavaScript in action. We're going to start seeing some cool stuff now in the next 2 tutorials. We'll work with fetch and actually get back data from an API. I feel I've been talking about APIs the whole course and getting back data, so we're going to actually be able to do it. which is pretty cool. So key takeaway, synchronous JavaScript is code that executes, essentially line by line, one thing at a time in a sequential manner. Asynchronous JavaScript is different. It is the idea that our code is non-blocking. We're not going to sit here and wait for this timeout method to run before executing out, I love Superman or Robin is cool too. Okay, so get a cup of tea or coffee, see you in the next tutorial. We're going to see fetch for the first time, so that's going to be great.